know about that.
What are you guys doing? I'm just warming up. Why are you guys standing? You can sit down. Oh, just curious, what happened there? I didn't tell you anything. No, I was just stretching. You had an expectation? You had an Well, yeah, I was just warming up, though. I mean, you know, it's Saturday morning. I'm due to wake up in another hour and a half.
You're a good leader, so we were all just following.
You were paid to say that, weren't you?
Yes, she was, in fact. And she's worth every penny of it. So, okay, so it's a Saturday morning. I have to tell you, it's a bad time. It's, you know, coming on Christmas. There's so many things going on. And I have to ask you a question. Why the heck are you here? PDUs. 3 PDUs. How many here for the PDUs? Okay. How many of you that aren't being honest are here for other reasons? Okay. Why? What do you want to get out of this workshop?
More effective communication to my stakeholders.
To stakeholders. Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Well, I would just generalize that to anyone. I mean, I think more effective communication to my wife would be quite handy.
Why? As I understand it, if we were covering that topic, the price would be a little bit more. And you probably have another speaker. Anybody else?
My project team.
Team. All right.
I would prefer effectiveness to take less time to get them to do what I need them to do.
Okay. Getting the team motivated or, okay, performing? Team performance, maybe? Anybody else?
I like to learn how to express myself where others really listen and I can get my message across where they understand it.
Okay. We'll put that understanding, maybe? And somebody else said something. Influencing. Okay, anybody else?
Even receive feedback and keeping things very positive.
Being positive. What else?
I'm working on keeping my communications brief.
Brief. Okay, what else?
And I'm intrigued by the brain-friendly piece of this presentation.
Okay. So what is brain-friendly communication?
That's what you're going to tell us.
At least demonstrate it.
Hopefully.
Maybe going along with what he just said, not just understanding how to communicate better, but to understand why the techniques work.
Why? Okay, we've got a good list. Anybody else?
Do this in 3 hours?
Are we going to do this in 3 hours? The answer is no. I will let you in on a secret.
It's communication for result.
Results.
And communication that's targeted to the receiver so that you can,
Targeted and results.
yes.
Okay.
And how you can determine what type of communication somebody really needs?
Yeah.
How would we call that? Identify, maybe? Tailor. How about Tailor? Okay. That's a good list for now. Let's continue with what my morning ritual is. I did my stretches. Now I want to have everybody breathe. Hold in, 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3. This time we're going to be a little longer. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Now I want you all to close your eyes. Take your wallet out, put it on the counter. Nobody fell for that. I mean, I expected one. Okay, but no, everybody, seriously, close your eyes and put your hand on your wallet. Close your eyes. Don't, I'm not going to pick your pocket. You okay? Not yet. Anyways. Okay, close your eyes. All right. I want you to visualize your most favorite place. It could be a tropical island. It could be a mountain that you've been to, skiing, scuba diving, rock climbing, sitting on a porch looking at a sunrise. I want you to be there. I want you to feel the sensations. I want you to hold on to that thought and hold on to that feeling. And I want you to feel that you are in a safe place, that this is not a workshop, but a fun shop, that ideas here are free-flowing, no judgment, that we are each individually connected to each individual in the room, that we belong, and we have something to offer. I want you to say to yourself that this is going to be a great day, that you are going to get what you came for, that you will make valuable connections, and you will progress both in your career and in your personal life, and that you are at ease. And lastly, you're going to have a fun time. Okay, I want you to open your eyes. What we're going to do today is going to be perhaps unlike any other workshop you've ever been to. It's certainly unlike any other workshop I've ever been to. And the reason is because we have been working all our lives training half of our mind. How many of you have ever been taught how you learn? Very good. How many of you have been able to leverage that in your daily life? So there are a lot of us that are out here that we've never really been taught how to learn. We're having to muddle through on our own, trial and error. And if you're like me, you never stop to think, hey, wait a second, this works, and this doesn't. How many of you, when was the last time you guys picked up a box of crayons and used them? In a year, in the last year, in the last 5 years, in the last 10 years? I've been studying how we interact with our own brains and how we communicate with people and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. I've worked with neuroscientists, neuropsychologists, experimental psychologists, cognitive psychologists. I've seen a lot of psychologists. I still like my mother. Educators, professional speakers, and project managers. And what I've found is that what we have been taught in school about how we learn and how we communicate is fundamentally flawed. There's some very wrong information out there. And I, unfortunately, while I'd like to correct it, I don't know that I can. And the reason is because while we can see inside the brain, while we can look with functional MRIs and understand our brain in profoundly different ways, the conclusions that we can draw are just really theories. That there's so much complexity there that we really don't know. And so what I'm going to do today is take you on a tour of the information that's out there and how it can apply to you in your everyday life. It's not going to be a science course. I apologize if that's what you thought it was going to be. I suspect that's not going to be something that would be attractive to everybody in the audience. But nonetheless, when we're talking to people, the hardest part is getting from the ear to the brain. What we say isn't what people hear. And we're going to explore why that is. This is a common phrase amongst the telecommunication industry. So what we're going to cover today is, first, why you should care, besides the PDUs. Why you should believe this, how it's going to change the way you communicate, how you can make a lasting impression, how do you motivate, and we're going to talk about mind maps. The workshop is broken into 3 parts. First, we're going to talk about what? What is brain-friendly communication? Number 2, we're going to talk about how does it work? And then number 3, the third part is how do we apply it? Okay? So let's start. Why do you care? Well, I suspect if you're like me, you've run across times when you came with a good solution to a problem and nobody listened. Does that ever happen to you? You ever wondered why? Did you ever get an answer? Sort of. It takes a while for people to give you feedback, if they ever give you feedback. We have, unfortunately, a lot of issues with communication in our daily life and in our work life, and we don't seem to ever really stop and try to resolve them. To have a powwow to say, hey, listen, this is what we've done, this is where it broke down, how can we avoid this in the future? Have you had many of these? Have they been effective? Sometimes. Man, we're all human, and we've been talking for quite a bit of time, right? Why haven't we gotten this stuff right? Anybody answers? Any answers at all?
And people take away from what you say, what they want to take away, right? So, you know, it's not just the words that you say, it's the person hearing you,
Right?
you know, and sometimes they take away what they want to hear. So that's,
Communication situation. So context matters.
Context matters.
So it's not necessarily, you can say it's raining, but if it's not raining, then the context matters. So communication isn't all one way, and it isn't all just between two people.
No. No.
So we have different agendas and priorities.
Very true.
A lot of miscommunication occurs. People say things that really aren't true and expect you to believe it. Like
Deception.
Like the weatherman.
Like the weather.
Communication in situations are very situational. There are some times, no matter what you say, you're not going to get through. But it's the times where if you put it right and you pierce the receiver's preconceptions, you can make the point, you can make a difference. But I recognize there are times where it wouldn't matter what I said because the wall was there and nothing was going to get through it. It's all those other times to improve the ability for the sender to pierce the receiver's preconceptions. That's what I'm interested in.
Okay. Piercing the veil. Getting through. Anybody else?
The nonverbal communication. Words are one thing, but I don't have a very good poker face. So my expression might come out, or I can have an argument essentially with my boyfriend and he never says a word, but it was his look that sets me off.
He's a smart man. So he can teach that class. Sorry.
Another thing, when you have bad news to deliver, some people just don't want to hear the bad news.
Bad news. Bad news. So we've got a lot of problems. Okay, all right. Just for those people that like to take things out of context, these two words are not connected. Okay? All right? Wife and bad news, not connected. Just accidentally happen to be within, close proximity.
Going what he was saying about they're not ready is the fact of if you're visionary and you see it coming, a lot of the team is just, they're not there yet. And that's the burden of communication becomes a whole lot more intense.
Yeah, they're overwhelmed with where they're at right now. They don't want to think about what's coming 2-3 weeks from now. They're struggling here.
Right now.
And so it's hard to prepare and remove the pain that's going to be coming if you can't somehow get support to change the path you're on.
Right.
And it's hard for the visionaries, like she's saying, you can see what's coming, but trying to get others on board to avoid that situation, very, very hard.
It is very hard. And the thing is, it's actually quite costly. Right? It's a soft skill. It's something that everybody assumes that we know how to do. We've been communicating all our lives since the moment we were born, actually probably since we were in our womb. But still, nonetheless, we still haven't mastered it. And the implications and the cost and the impact of the problems that we encounter are actually quite massive. They're in the billions. So now what are we going to do about it? Well, let's first talk a little bit about the brain. Right. This is the source of all our problems. We are expecting our brains to work like a computer, to work flawlessly, to make no mistakes. Everything's intentional. And guess what? It's not. It's decidedly not. Do you believe this? Anything here you don't believe? Somebody's got to believe something. Somebody's got to think that that's not right.
That's my brain.
That's your brain.
I would trust something that daydreams because they're looking for answers.
I want to work for you. I want to work for you.
I'm sorry, could you make that back up?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Can you over here see the sign? Okay.
Breakdown in communication.
Breakdown in communication. A barrier to communication. Yes.
Sid, I'm having difficulty hearing some of the comments. I don't know what can be done about that.
I will repeat the question. Another barrier to communication, distance. So we believe this, right? You were going to say?
I was just going to say, isn't that about expectations? I mean, we expect things like that to happen to people, but we don't expect them to happen to machines.
Well, let me ask you this question. Did you expect this to happen to you? Do you think that this is something that you're cognizant of when you listen and when you react to things? That, hey, wait a second, my brain works in a way that doesn't necessarily seem logical. And we're cognizant of that fact before we react. Maybe sometimes. Maybe sometimes. In our better days. Okay. So, we all recognize these things, right? What we see, what we think we see, isn't really reality. And that what we see life, and all our senses are actually filtered by our experiences. Sorry?
That's right.
That's right. We interpret our senses through our experiences, and one of the things that the brain is extraordinarily good at and hungers to do is look for patterns in the input it gets. And it looks for things that are novel. So it looks for patterns and novelty. And the last one, do you recognize the fact that, how many of you believe that you are emotional decision makers? Anybody not believe that they're an emotional decision maker? Wow. You guys have studied up. All right. So, we're going to go through these very quickly. The brain lies. It lies to us. We've had situations in medical wards where somebody has had learned paralysis. They're functional, that everything about them is operational, but the brain has said, I cannot move this arm. We also have phantom limb syndrome, where the brain will say, I actually have this limb, and I have pain in this limb, even though it's been severed. Right? And optical illusions. How many of you like optical illusions? See, this is something really bizarre. We actually like being fooled. We like it. We'll spend money to be fooled. I want to get into that business. How do you like that? We like it. All right. This is a little known fact. And I can't ask you this question now because you already know the answer. Every time we open our eyes, there's something in our visual field. Every single time we open our eyes. And guess what? We don't pay attention to it. We don't even know it's there. It's our nose. Put your finger on your nose. Okay? Hold your finger there. Concentrate on it. Look at your fingertip, right? Cross your eyes. Okay? Now, take your finger away. Now look. Do you see your nose now? I don't know. If you're like me, my nose is giant right about now. And if you put a little black mark here, right? There's no width to it, just a little black mark. It will drive you crazy. It will drive you crazy. I need a volunteer. Okay, well, actually, I'll tell you what. Let's try this. I want to run through a scenario. Everybody close your eyes. All right? You're driving a bus. 2 people get on. 1 person gets off. You go to the next stop. 3 people get on. 2 people get off. The next stop, 1 person gets on. The next stop, 3 people get off. The next stop, 2 people get on. The next stop, 1 person gets on.
It's on.
Gets on. What color pants is the bus driver wearing? How many of you don't know the answer to that question? How many of you who did know the answer to that question have heard the joke before? There are a bunch of people that didn't raise their hand. They're still trying to figure out, how the heck do you know what color pants are? You're the driver. You're driving a bus. You go to the first stop. I said it twice. But the brain is sitting there looking at the numbers. It's paying attention to the numbers. It thinks that's the relevant part. And so guess what? It ignores all the other stuff it doesn't think is relevant. All the other stuff I said about people getting on, people getting off, people getting on, people getting off, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Right? But because our brain thinks it's important, it will pay attention to that at the exclusion of stuff that really is important.